Yes, good evening, lady, and my dear pastor. Elizabeth, thank you for coming.
You're
I
blessed.
really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you for accepting my invitations and for honoring me. Thank you very much. My
You're
able
welcome,
pastor,
sir.
Pastor Sam from South Africa. Thank you. You always, anytime that I send for you, you honor my invitation. Thank you very much. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Our case study for today based on sex education. Sex educations based on sex in marriage. That's our case study. And the first question we go to Elizabeth: why people always mentioning sex? Does it mean that sex is so important in marriage?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jim. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of this wonderful platform. Okay, so before I actually go into answering the questions as to um, why people, talk about sex, or why do people think that sex is important, I would like to just give a brief introduction about what sex is, so that we all are carried along, and then we have a better understanding of what the subject matter is. Okay, so well, literally, when we say sex, we could term it to be gender. We could say male or female. That's just on a literal ground. Then if you want to actually take it to the subject of matter, which is actually relating to sex and marriage, then we'll talk about sex as an intimate physical activity, where people arouse their partners of themselves by way of words or touch. You know, for some, sex might just mean actual sexual intercourse. For some, it might mean just cuddling, it might mean kissing. Um, but with each individual, the way you take it, the way you understand it is now you now begin to talk about how you understand the subject. But generally, we could have synonyms to it, so that when you talk about intercourse, it's still talking about the subject matter, with the sex. When you talk about love making, it's still talking about sex. When you're talking about sexual relations, it's still talking about sex. Or when you say you're having physical intimacy, you're having copulation. Or someone say having carnal knowledge of someone, it's talking about sex or mating. So these are actually analogous to sex. So we could have it in more informal context also. When you say sleeping together, when most people would rather use I sleep with my husband often. I sleep with my husband or with my wife seldomly. So those are ways of actually expressing the term sex. Or I'm hooking up with him, or I'm hooking up with her. I'm getting it on, you're getting it on. These are terms that people actually use. Or making love, I make love with my husband, I make love with my wife. These are actually terms, that actually relate to, or that's synonymous to sex. So going to the question that why do people always mention sex? Or why do people think that does it mean sex is so important? Well, as for me, sex is very important. And then the reason why people also mention sex, or why do they think it is important, is because it is a fundamental aspect of human relationships. And it has significant implication for your physical health, for your emotional well-being, and then relationship um, satisfaction. So a lot of people mention it because, especially in marriage, you cannot divulge sex from marriage. Sex is an integral part of marriage. And that is why you see a lot of young people long for it. Many a times, young people, especially young people who probably that believes in sex before marriage, would have been longing for it. The body calls for it. Yes, when you grow, you are past grown puberty stage. So they people long for it. So it's an important. So because they feel it's important, then people get into marriage. And some people, we can't do without it. So it will be an abnormal thing to you to say that I don't have sex in marriage. How do you procreate? How do you actually How do you actually procreate? How do you, can you hear me? Am I still communicating?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
thank you very much. Okay, so now we're talking about does it mean sex is very important? Yes, you hear people say that, yeah, you're growing younger. Yes, in your inner mind, you know that because you have sex often, or it may not necessarily be often, but as much as you desire or you're satisfied with it, then we call it anti-aging benefits. That means you do not age faster because it helps, in the body system. It also increase levels of commitment. People talk about it because they feel that the more you access, the more you grow in your commitment to each other, especially when you talk, when you're having it. When you sometimes there is this saying that says that the more you're talking, on the action, the more committed you are. You can sometimes you say some words that you don't even that you would not say on a natural, naturally, or if you're probably in your right senses sometimes, so it's actually increased levels of commitment. Sometimes it actually also improve your lifestyle, your skin and appearance. Like, I'm going to give an instance. While I was growing, growing, well, people have always been calling me petite. I look small, but uh, I know that, okay, since I got into marriage, I added flesh. So not necessarily because I am relaxed or that, because sex is also a form of relaxation. So it's some people will tell you that, okay, it's a way whereby you're giving some sort of features that you have never been given before. So it adds to your skin, it has to your appearance, it has to your looks. So it's a form of improvement in your lifestyle. It also improves your immunity. The more you engage in certain intercourse, it improves immunity. It prevents germs, from entering into the genitals, like that, when it's held early anyway. It's also, for instance, when I was also growing up. Okay, I'm going to give an instance of a close relative who normally have heavy flow of menstrual cycle. So, but as soon as she got into marriage, the flow reduced. So it actually lightens periods in women. So
Mm.
when you're actually, young, and then you every now and then, when it is the 28th day, after every month, within the cycle, when you're about to have your menstruation, it is either you cannot go out, it's either you vomit, it's either you are lying on the floor, or you're complaining of stomach ache, cramps. But this actually helps women a lot. And that's why some women will even tell you that I want to quickly go into marriage because I need this thing, this menace to stop. So it lightens periods and, women. It also helps your sleep, especially when you have it towards the time you want to sleep. You sleep well. You have a nice sleep. So it helps better sleep, and it relieves body pain sometimes and all that. So these are some sort of importance that people attribute to sex, and it's also a stress booster. Or in short, sometimes you don't even have to go for exercise or work out. You just have to, when you get back from work, you're tired, your husband calls you, or you call your husband, honey, it's time. Just be ready that it's an exercise for you, and it helps you breathe well. It helps you, work out. So it's an excellent workout. It releases happy hormones. When you're doing it and you're happy with it, it releases happy hormones. And people always talk about the fact that when you have, healthy sex, you tend to bring forth healthy children and beautiful, children. So it's very important, and its importance varies among individuals and couples. But generally, it plays a critical role in bonding and maintaining intimate connections. Thank you very much, Mr. Jem.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Let me ask you a question before I put the question back to Pastor Sam.
Okay.
Why some ladies or men, especially, this time around, you see the way people are talking about the sex in a raw way, in a raw manner, especially in Yoruba language. You see them talking about the sex, talking about the dirty part of the sex. Does it make sense? Does that kind of talk educative or educated?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, talking about sex in raw forms is not ideal. Now, some words are meant to be actually held within the comfort of a marriage. So it's more like the way you cannot mention certain words, the same way you would give respect to this term also. There are some things that are kept private. Let me give an instance. I am, okay, for instance, I am an accountant in my firm. Now, I am meant to actually be confidential about some information, especially information that relates to, the financials of the company. Now, the way I keep such information private, because I know it's actually something within the confines of my company when it is not a public document, then same way we should actually treat this, because it's not a term that is actually meant to be talked, in a rude form or in a vulgar form or in a disrespectful way. Maybe yes, I hear a lot, especially in this side of the country, Nigeria, where you hear people even at bus stops, you hear a lot of words about genitals of women and of men. So to me, it is not something that should be spoken roughly. We need to respect it. We need to give it the importance it deserves and the respect it deserves. So we do not have to. And then when you don't say, it does not mean you don't involve in the act. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
I'm following you.
mention
Yeah,
it
I'm following
doesn't
you.
mean I don't do it. So, but then we have to, so especially when it comes to about we're talking about education and all of that. How would you even educate the younger ones when you begin to speak it in a way where those that are even not meant to hear it at a tender age, everybody begins to hear such. So it's very important that we keep it, you know, very it's a sensitive word, so we need to keep it secret, more polite. Let me use the word, polite, and then sacred also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Pastor Sam, let me throw the question back to you. As a pastor and a father, a married man, people always mentioning sex, sex, sex. Do you think that sex is so important in marriage?
Thank you, my host. Let me be forthright with you. Let me be very direct. Sex is very, very, very important in marriage. Yeah, it's extremely important in marriage. And in order to substantiate that fact, let's look at the origin of sex. How did sex come about? You look at sex, sex is not man's idea. It's not. Sex is God's idea. So sex came from, permit me to use the word planet. It came from a planet way beyond Earth. I'm not saying that they practice it there. I'm saying that the idea of it was given to man. If we believe the story of creation, God created man. Man was alone. And God saw that it was not fit, it was not good, it was not okay, it was not all right that the man, now the male figure, should be alone. And God, in his wisdom, did not create another man. I'm not trying to censor anybody here. I'm just trying to explain how sex came about. So, God created a woman so that there can be an intimate relationship between the man and the woman. The woman came first to solve the problem of companionship, and then the issue of reproduction. So sex is extremely important. In fact, when man saw the first woman, when the first man saw the first woman, It said that there was an expression on the face of the man when he saw the woman. Said, "Wow, man! Wow, man!" That's how it became woman. You understand? So sex is very important because it came from God. Now, my able Elizabeth has spoken so much about the benefits of sex. Do you understand? Now, let me still pick my reference from the Bible. You see, if you see the way the sex is described in the Bible, you will see the importance. For instance, the Bible says that Adam knew his wife. Adam knew his wife. So, through sex, you get to know your wife or your husband. Through sex. When sex is in the context of marriage on the basis of love, I mean, shared love. You see, each time you have sex, you are actually educating the other partner. You are taking a part of you and you are putting it into your partner, and your partner is also, being put into you. You just discover that there is a transfer of knowledge. That's why the Bible used that word know. You see, if you have watched couples that truly loved each other and they've grown up together, you discover that they so know each other and they know what the other person is going to say. They could complete the sentence, they could understand the mannerisms and everything. These are part of the things, these are some of the things that have been passed, through the act of sex or copulation, or sleeping together, as we have been told. So sex is extremely, extremely important. Also, we must say that sex is not to be trifled with. We don't take sex lightly. We don't take sex lightly because people take it lightly. For instance, some people will say, "Now, food for the man." It is food. It is food. It is food for the man, and it is food. Believe me, it is food. God designed it that way. It is not. It is not a man that designed it that way. It is God, because after some time there are secretions in the body that will make you to demand it. If you go and stay alone in the bush, you will see desire sex, because there is a secretion in your body that demands for that. With the man, sex is important. With the woman, sex is also important. Now, if both the man and the woman, that means the husband and the wife, get the chemistry right, sex is a natural outcome of that chemistry. And that is the kind of sex that is, rewarding, that is educating and all that. So sex is extremely important. It's extremely important. A lot has been said by her, sex glues the marriage. It strengthens the bond between both man and woman. So, and it makes them endeared to each other. It also makes them look like each other. You know why? Because in sex, there is transference of blood. And so as you get to have sex with your husband, you discover that you begin to look like your husband at some point. That sex is that important. You understand? So sex is very, 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 very important. If you look even at the it's so important that in sex it's said that there is transference of spirits. If you look at the occultic dimension, if you look at the occultic realm, you discover that in the occult, sex is a huge part of their rituals. Sex is a huge part of their rituals, because that's when they kind of connect with spirits, they transfer spirits to each other, and they do a lot of things. So sex is very, very important. In fact, the Bible warns against you going into sex too early. Yes, you don't you asked the question the other time, and you were talking about should sex be threefold? Should people just talk sex, just like that? And the answer has been given. Sex is though physical, but it's also very, very spiritual. So we don't just take it lightly. Let me give you a scenario in the Bible that caught my attention. Now, in Genesis, permit me to read it. Let me just tell you the story. In Genesis, I think in chapter 31, in verses 10 and 11. Let me read it. Genesis chapter 31, verses 10 and 11. So show you how important sex is and why we should not trifle with sex. Let me just quickly read Genesis chapter 31. I'm going to read from verse 10. Now, it says, in the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes. This is Jacob speaking, and saw in a dream that the goats that mated, that had sex with the flock, were stripped, spotted, and mottled. Now, in the physical, in the physical, the goat that climbed on the female goat in the physical was plain. The color was plain. It was not having different stripes. You know, it wasn't. But in the spiritual, it was revealed to Jacob in the dream that the goat that was mating with the other female goats or animals, they were speckled. They were spotted, rather, they were stripped and they were mottled. What does that mean? In the physical, they were plain. In the spiritual, they were spotted. That means who has sex with you is extremely important. So sex should not be threefold. It's both physical, yes, and it's seriously spiritual. So sex is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Sam from South Africa. Let me quickly throw one question to you before I back to Elizabeth. As a
Okay.
pastor, and I can see that you refer us to the Bible, being a pastor.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about Abraham and Eve.
Okay.
And if you look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, don't let us go to that. Let us go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 7.
Okay.
Although the Bible does not answer this, but let us observe it in a way round. You know, Bible does not establish it or answer it, but let us observe it. On this Genesis 3, Genesis chapter 3, verse 7 says, then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. So it wasn't until after they ate the fruit that they knew what nakedness was. So as you refer your analysis, your narratives, and brought us back to the Bible, what do you want us to gain or learn from Adam and Eve? Do you think that's what the fact that Bible does not establish it, but it's happened, or let us observe it? Do you think Abraham and Eve having sex?
Do I think Adam and Eve had sex?
Yeah.
Definitely they had sex. If they didn't have sex, their children would not have come forth. They had sex, of course. They had sex.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
it.
they
That's the
had
reason
sex.
why.
Now, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that the fruit that they ate was sex, as some claim. Do we understand? Now, my own understanding of scripture interpretation is where scripture is silent, be silent. And where scripture is explicit, where scripture has given us information on how we can get the information, then you can speak based on such references. But where God has been silent, so here, all we know is that they ate a fruit and their eyes opened. It was not said that that fruit was sex, because God had sex in mind. How else would they have their children if they didn't have sex? Oh, have you seen people who have they just get pregnant, apart from the case of Mary, without having sex? Anyhow, you talk about artificial insemination. That's not what we're talking about here. What, at this time, there was nothing like that. There was no artificial insemination. So they had sex, but the sex there is not the eating of the fruit, because Scripture is silent on that.
Thank you very much. That's the reason why I said from Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 says, then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and
The
multiply,
fruitful. Aha.
fill the earth and subdue it.
Mm-hmm.
So Adam and Eve were made to be fruitful and
Yeah.
multiply. That's a
Simple.
way of planning as we are talking about sex in marriage.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pastor Sam. Let us quickly go to our second questions because time is running out. As a Christian and as a Muslim, I agree. There's no Muslim guest among us. We're all Christian. When during the fasting period, either Christian fasting period or Muslim fasting period, and you see your wife maybe is doing something or wearing sexy clothes, or maybe she just finished a shower and you saw her. Does it make sense, or does the Christianity or the religion that asks us to fast, either Christian or Muslim, does it make sense if the body is asking for it when the man saw his wife or see his wife maybe naked, dressing up or doing something, saw the back? Does it reasonable or for that man to break the fasting if he feed the body to have a sex with his wife and is doing the fasting period, either
Okay.
Christian or Muslim? Does he allow, can you take that one as a sin or what?
Okay. Is it to me or to Elizabeth?
Let me throw it to Elizabeth.
Okay. I'll come in later when she
Yeah.
has made a point. Okay. Thank you. Lizzie, it has gone off. I can't hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's audible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question on if
If
a
a man,
man or a woman can actually break his or
the
her
fasting,
fast
yeah,
when he's
where the body is
actually in the
asking for it.
mood of having sex.
Yeah.
Well, the question is actually depends on the context of the religious or cultural practices that we're talking about. Now, when you talk about having sex in Islam, for instance, they will tell you that during the month of Ramadan, that means fasting from dawn to sunset includes abstinence from sexual activity. So to the Muslims, they believe that engaging in sex will break the fast. So that's why I say that it depends on the context or your religious or the cultural practice. So and it is advised to just wait until after sunset, then you can resume such activity. Now let me bring it to Christian before I would answer the question of maybe when you're in the mood or when you're being aroused. Does that mean sex? Mean fasting is broken? I'll get there. So for Christianity, we believe that um, fasting is more like a spiritual exercise. It's more like it's something that you need to actually pay attention to for your own spiritual growth. For your own development, spiritual development, for your prayer, and then for your prayers to be answered, and then probably for time to reflect, on things that you are prayed to God for or that you are expecting God to. So that's what the Christian believe what fasting actually means. So, and then when you say that, okay, you're fasting, you abstain from food, to take your mind away from things that can actually, cause you to be distracted, or something that would actually kill your body, that will make your body to be weakened, and then you are quickened in your spirit. So that is the way the Christian actually see fasting. So now the type of fast now depends. Now, you might decide as a Christian to fast from 8 a.m. in the morning, or let me say from 12 a.m. to like 6 p.m. Now, if I fast within that period, and then when it is 6 p.m., I break my fast, I can always engage in sex, you know. I can actually have um, sex with my wife. She's my wife, or she is my husband. I can have sex. It could also mean that you are sometimes Christians do, Yorubas call it awe biri biri. It could be that you are fasting for, they call it white fast now, where like you can fast for 3 days without food. Sometimes you take water, sometimes you don't even take anything, you know. So those, to that Christian, believes that when I'm fasting, I'm supposed to be totally concentrated to God. So you could be distracted with that act, right? Now, but I need to put it to us that when you are in a mood, or when you see your wife naked, or when you see your husband naked, or you are aroused typically, it does not actually break your fast. Do you understand? It doesn't actually break your fast. So it is the mindset. It's, you have to actually consult your kind of, you know, the specific fasting practice. You have to, you know, reason it out. So it is not so for you. Yeah, why do we call it marriage? Both of Bible says that, and they are both naked. They were not ashamed. So if I'm fasting, do I have to leave my house because I'm fasting? No, you could leave your house. I'm not saying that if you leave your house, it's not a good fasting practice. You could, if you really want to concentrate. But it doesn't mean that if you don't leave your house, then you are going to be breaking your fast because of messing your wife. So it takes a disciplined man, a disciplined woman to actually, you know, remain fasting and then not, you know, break his or her fast while in the mood, or while you probably see your wife or your man, your wife or your husband naked. So I want to actually counter the general belief that when you see a woman naked, or when you see a man naked, or when you are aroused, that you break your fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Pastor Sam, what is your contribution on this area when somebody is fasting, either a Muslim or a Christian, and then your body is moving, both either the husband or the wife, the body is moving, and the fasting is so important. And at later day, one Yoruba used to say, proverb used to say that "Esulagbara ko nigbala," and if you can't take it anymore, and at later day, the both of you having that sex. So, do you think that is necessary to do so?
Thank you for the question. My Elizabeth has answered the question very brilliantly with respect to the Muslims. The Muslims, if you while you are fasting, you engage in sexual intercourse. To them, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. That's in their religion. In fact, I also believe in other religions too. You understand? But when it comes to the Christian faith, you know, you cannot say it's outright sin based on some conditions. First, the first question we need to establish is who commanded the fast? Who commanded the fast? Is it God that initiated it in your heart that you should fast? As in, there's an express command for you to fast. God spoke to you, you heard clearly through the leading of the Spirit that you should fast. Like the Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness to fast, because it's very possible for the Spirit to ask you to engage in a fast. So if the Spirit has called you to fast, and He has given you the guideline, the type, is it the normal fast, which we call 6 to 6, 6 to 6, 6 in the morning a.m. until 6 p.m. in the evening. And you have to do that for maybe say 30 days, 3 days, whatever. Now, in as much as you obey the 6 to 6, you have not committed any crime. You have not committed any crime. But it is my belief that if God has given an instruction to fast from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then in between you have sex, then you are committing a sin. Because at that time, you are breaking the injunction of God. He told you to abstain from sex at that particular time. Also, if it's a fast called by the leadership of the church, yeah, it's called by the leadership of the church, and you belong there, and you belong to that church, and you're a committed member, and you are a leader, for instance, and even if you're not a leader, but you're a committed leader, a person there, it is commanded, and you have decided to go through with it. I think you will not be doing right to break the sex by sex, to break the fast by sex. Sex will break that fast if you do that. Yes, but this is my take. If I am the one that decided to fast, I decided to fast. I was not told by the church or by the leadership. I was not told by God to do that. I just decided I want to do, I want to go into fast. I want to deny myself on some things, and then I break it. For me, you have not committed any crime because you are the one in the first place that decided to go into it. But here is the thing: if you have committed a crime, you have committed a crime against nobody but against yourself. Do you understand? Because now, what is the goal of fasting in the first place? What is the goal of fasting? Now, fasting is engaged in for self-mastery. That's one of the goal of fasting. Fasting helps you to the word is not deadening. Fasting helps you to overcome the power of the flesh. It's called the flesh over you. When you fast, you are actually dealing with the power of the flesh. You are dealing with your appetite. You are dealing with your desires. That's what you are doing when you fast. You are telling the body, you will not control me. I will be in control of you. So the goal is, to achieve discipline, to achieve what's it called right now? Self-control, self-mastery. That's the goal of fast. Now, you are now fasting. Don't forget, I'm on the third point that nobody asked you to do it. You are the one doing it yourself. Now, you are now fasting by your own volition to gain self-mastery. And then in the process, your body was tempted and you break it. Your goal is defeated. Your goal is defeated. You must also understand that as a human being, we are programmable entities. We are programmable entities. So if in the process of fasting, it becomes, a norm for me that when I see my wife, in a particular light and I get aroused and I yield to that stuff, I'm programming my body. I'm sending a message to the brain that whenever I'm involved in a goal, whenever I'm involved in, a goal to master self, and there is a distraction or there is an urge, I should go into it. You are programming yourself wrongly. In that sense, it is wrong. In that sense, it is wrong. So to summarize it, it is better that you respect your goal, you respect God, and you respect the leadership of the church that commanded the fast, and stay away from sex during that period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Stan from South Africa. Now, before we go,
Okay.
Elizabeth, you're a married woman and you have your job. Do you think that when a man can serve his wife or satisfy his wife, and the wife step outside to look for somebody that can bang her very well, so that orientations, the phenomenon of that sex within that marriage, if it's lack for a second, do you think that marriage will be a successful marriage, or the marriage will be a blindfolded marriage? that both sides pretending with each other. The man is out, maybe the wife can satisfy him, and then the man can also satisfy his wife, and both sides blindfolding, each other, pretending that they were still married, but they know that they were lacking that sex and they were going out. Do you think that is necessary as we are talking about this sex in marriage?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I need to understand your question. Let me just put it this way, summarize what you just said so that I would better answer the question. So you mean a man who is married or a woman who is married, he or she cannot actually satisfy the wife or the woman or the husband, and
And then the
they
wife
both side.
can satisfy the husband as well, both sides.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Both sex or both parties can satisfy each
Yes,
other,
yeah.
and they both look outside,
Mhm.
possibly, trying to find someone who is going to fulfill, their desires, and they are in the marriage. Sometimes they are pretending that okay, they are finding joy in that
Yeah,
marriage.
blindfolding, each other.
Okay,
Obviously.
well, the question, I would answer it this way. Yes, with when in a marriage, both parties need to understand each other. You need to understand your partner's level of sexual desire. You need to understand. So the libido in each party differs. So it takes an understanding wife to sustain a marriage. If you know that this is the level with which your husband can actually take you, you need to understand that. Same goes for a man. You need to understand. So communication is very important in marriage. It is important that you both understand each other's level of satisfaction, each other's level, the energy. In some marriage, it's the woman that has the high libido. The man, after 1 minute, 2 minutes, is done. He can't go the second or the third round. However, in another context, it is the man and the woman is tired after just maybe 1 minute. So both parties needs to understand each other. So you do not have to, if you are in a marriage, you do not have to look elsewhere. Yes, the body demands it. So it takes both parties needs to communicate these weaknesses. The more you communicate your weakness, the more you help each other. You could seek, yes, medical support, psychological support, and this can actually help, those duo in the relationship. But going out to fulfill your sexual desire, one has already defied that mandate in that marriage. So the most important thing is here is understand the energy of both parties. Understand, talk it, speak it, communicate with each other. With that, you will be able to find joy in whatever level the man is taking you, whatever level you need to. And then it takes discipline to train yourself to meet with the standards of your husband or your wife. It takes discipline. And then you need to understand that whether I am high on sex or I'm low, I should not break this marriage because of this. I should find happiness in my husband's weakness and in my husband's strength. I should find happiness in my wife's weakness and in my. It would be nice talking about all of this. You see a lot of people going out there talking with their friends saying, "Oko mi o le se, you cannot satisfy me." No, it needs to be talked. It needs to be communicated. Both parties needs to understand that this is my libido limits. This is my libido level. This is my libido energy. Then with that understanding, I believe both would find, joy in that marriage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Pastor Sam, as
Yes,
a
sir.
pastor, when the wife can't really satisfy her husband, and at later day, maybe as Elizabeth said, maybe one round and the man is not okay, you see have more energy for more, and he doesn't have anybody outside. And at later day, if that man started masturbating or masturbates just for her, just for him to be relieved, do you think that is a sin?
That's but very for me, it's
Just
the
I give it about 2 minutes, please. Our time is gone, please.
I might take more than 2 minutes. Sorry, sir. Now let me be honest, because you see, the issue of masturbation, it's unacceptable, even in marriage. Masturbation is you saying you don't need the wife. Once you start it, that means if as often as the wife is unable to satisfy you, you will resort to masturbation. Eventually, you will not need that woman. Yes, you won't if you do that. And in masturbating, you are breaking a design that is established by a divine order. That's what you are doing. And when you do that, you open up yourself to spirits. You open up yourself to, bondage. It's dangerous. It is a no-go area as a Christian. Even if you're not a Christian, it is a no-go area. It's a stated fact. It's a known fact that people who indulge in masturbation are destroying their sexuality. You are doing a lot of harm to yourself when you go into a masturbation. So that is a no-no area. But what we can say is, if your wife is unable to satisfy you, like Elizabeth has said, you need to talk. You see, there is this taboo, that has been placed on discussing marriage culturally or by some cultures. Please, when it comes into marriage, it's you and your husband. That is when you discuss sex, you be as open and vulnerable to each other as possible. If your wife is not satisfying you, now ask her. You understand? There's a lot of things that could result into that. Is it a cultural thing? Is it an upbringing? You understand my point? If she came up in a conservative setting where sex is viewed wrongly, that could be a problem. All those things are very important. Sorry, let me just quickly round off our round off. You see, so I'm saying that it's up to you guys to look into the cause of that problem, whether it is spiritual, whether it is it requires education, whether it is a mental thing or not bringing issue. Look into it. It can be dealt with. It can be dealt with. You see, then you open up to credible sources. You open up to credible sources. I think the problem can be solved, but I don't think you going to masturbate will solve the problem.
Thank you, Pastor Sam. Elizabeth,
Yeah.
before we go now, if it is happen that the man can't satisfy his wife, maybe the wife is something that is out that able of uh, uh, sensual something, and at later day, the man just 1 minute, as you said it earlier on at the beginning of your presentation, and at later day, the woman started to masturbate, do you think that is necessary for the woman to do so? Or do you think that that woman need somebody outside to service her? Just
Okay. It's
two
the
minutes, two
question is
minutes.
already the question is
It's
already
already answered.
answered.
Yeah, no,
It's
no, no.
already answered. What applies to man applies to the
That's
woman.
for the woman.
Yeah, what
Yes, that's what
applies,
I'm saying.
Not about
What
the
applies to the
about
man applies to
applies
the
to the
woman.
woman.
So we're
Thank you.
talking about the opposite sex here. So um you wouldn't say because you're a woman. So what happens to the man too? So because you're a woman, you don't have because your husband is not satisfying you, then you go outside. It's also wrong. It's also wrong. So you need to deal with the situation. Communication is key. So talk to each other. How can you help each other? to overcome the weakness. That's it. So the same answer has been
Please,
answered.
let,
Personally.
let me quickly say this now. Let me quickly say this. Now, these days we look at um films. You understand? You look at all these films, and then you see the way they carry out their sex and all those things, and bring that into the marriage. Please, that one is acting. That what you see is acting. It's not true. It's not many a time. It is not true. So now, if a woman, for instance, or a man now begins to build fantasy based on that which they see either on the social media, internet, or TV, and they now bring that into their marriage, that'll be wrong. That'll be wrong. So I think we need to look as well into that. You might have to sensitize yourself, about what sex is really about. Also, when a person is growing old, as you are growing old, sex, if you don't do something specific to keep it alive, it will go down naturally. It will go down. So that's why I say education is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go now, Pastor Sam,
Okay.
I've listened to a lot of analysis, a lot of discussions about this masturbation. To know, and I've seen a lot of people. Do you think that masturbate or masturbation? Do you think that is
Yeah, masturbation.
That masturbation? Do you think
Mm.
that if somebody used to read and then to drop it, to let it go, there are some people find it very difficult in
Yeah.
masturbation to
Yeah.
let it go because they are addicted to it.
Yeah.
So what
It's
is the
like
way
like every other addiction. Once you get addicted to it, you are in trouble. It's just like every other addiction. You will need an external help to be able to break it.
either you
Once you
have
get,
sex with your wife or your girlfriend, or even a lady, either a lady is having a
either it's a
sex
lady
with
or
her husband or a
a
boyfriend, but
guy,
always masturbating,
that you can see that that's a problem.
masturbations,
You see, once when you start a thing, né, you might be in charge. But once it becomes an addiction, you're no longer in charge. Another entity has taken over you. You might not agree with me, but another entity has taken over you. You
Thank you
will
very much.
need help to be able to, break such.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sam. Before
Thank
we
you.
go, Elizabeth, do you have any advice? Do
Any
you have any
advice
advice for the couples,
for
for the husband and wife, the couples, with this
okay.
aspect of our discussion, sex and masturbation?
Okay, so to the
Just 1 minute.
general public, the advice is I have for couples is to understand the importance of sex and to treat it as such. You need to understand that sex is an integral part of the marriage and is ordained by God. So it should not be treated with frivolity. That's one. And then you need to also, like when Pastor Sam was saying, he said that some people will say, is it food? Yes, treat it as food because when you are hungry, you will need to satisfy it. Do you understand? You need to satisfy your hunger. So take it as such too. Then another thing is communication is key. Like I mentioned, you need to understand each other's level of sexual desire, sexual urge, and that would also help people in marriage. Yeah, it is very also important that you discuss the frequency of your sex. Some people will tell you that I want to have it early in the morning and late at night. Some people just tell you that no, I want to have it once a day. You need to understand what satisfies both parties. So these are kind of things that the communications married couples should keep, to actually help keep their marriage healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pastor Sam, 1 minute. Any advice? We're
Well,
going
my
now.
advice is don't allow your cultural taboo to come into your marriage. Yeah, don't allow it because they are not the one that brought sex into marriage. So don't allow them to box you guys up. You and your husband, should agree, on what you want to do and enjoy yourself within reasonable, sensible limit. There are people who do a lot of things in sex that if you look at them, if you hear them, you will ask yourself, are they normal? You understand? But within a reasonable limit, you guys should be expressive I mean, you should be open to each other. Let education with respect to sex be a huge part of your sexual life, and I believe you will, enjoy it. Always seek the welfare of the other sexually. It's important. Seek the welfare of the other in sex. It's very important. The man should be concerned about the woman should be concerned about the man. And then, there's a lot to be said about it. Women use it as a weapon, men use it as a weapon, they deny their husband, and then the woman also. So, as I will show you, the man said, "Me too, I will show you," and all those things, remove them from sex. Let's also enjoy it as it has been ordained. It's a powerful tool to glue us together and to ward off the enemies. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Pastor Sam. Thank you very much. We've reached the end of our program. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your time. Thank you very much. I hope to see you back again. Pastor Sam, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. We've reached the end of our program. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank